So now that you've listened to the Disney version of Cinderella, and you've also listened to the Cinderella story from India, you're going to be looking closely at what were some of the changes that were made within these stories. So you can see there's a page like this. You can either go back to the epic story where you can stop and write down words and find exact things there, or you can go through the read aloud again on YouTube and stop and pause where you want to write something down. And you're going to fill out a page that looks like this. So here's the example of the page that you have. You can either do it right here on the Google Slides or you can use the PDF. And so, for example, I would write down the title of my story right up here. Um, and then I would put under names of fairy godmother. So the fairy godmother really wasn't a fairy godmother at all in the India story. It was the fairy godfather. And then we would have the names of all the characters in the story here as well. So I would list those here. The setting. So, talk about not just that this story took place in India, but whereabouts in India did the story take place? What did the landscape look like? Um, you're going to describe some of the clothing. There is some very traditional clothing being worn in here. And the lost item in this case is not at all a slipper, is it? So you're going to write down what item was lost and what was the celebration they were at. Again, this is quite different from the traditional Cinderella that we know here. So, talk about what is that celebration. And if you really want to learn more, maybe look up that celebration and find out a bit more about what that is and what that's about. You're going to talk about the chores that Cinderella had to complete in this story, in the India story. And they do talk about some of the traditional foods from this area, and they are delicious foods. So, talk about the foods here if you want to draw pictures as well for any of these squares, as long as you have the writing. I don't mind if there's a picture too. Some of the words that are used from this country. So, are there any Indian words that are used there? And transportation. How does she get to the celebration? And how does the prince move around? What's the transportation he takes? Occupations, that's the jobs. So, as we know, that Cinderella is just with her um, stepmother and one stepsister in this case. So, what kind of jobs did Cinderella have to do around the house? Um, not necessarily around the house, but what? How did they make a living? How did they look after themselves? And then finally, a reflection. Can you think about how all of these um, differences in this fairy tale reflects what the culture of India is like in this area? So, just a few sentences here to think about the changes and to tell us what you think about this story and yeah, enjoy it.